The other big developing story this morning involves the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security and businesses in Hennepin County, notably daycares. Of course, that's been a big topic of conversation now for months. In fact, stretching back for years. Fox 9 did stories on this nearly 10 years ago about FBI raids and investigations into daycares that were accused of obtaining fraudulent funds. Well, this morning, search warrants at nearly 24 Twin Cities businesses. The raids confirmed to Fox 9 in statements, both from the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security. And our crews out spotting federal agents going in and out of a child care center. So again, warrants executed at mostly Somali-owned businesses, including the infamous Quality Learning Center that was gained notoriety in a social media video shared last December that led to then more outrage, more political discourse. Certainly was part of Operation Metro Surge, the justification of sending Homeland Security into the Twin Cities. Now, the city of Minneapolis posting this morning that Minneapolis police were not asked to help with the warrants. Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, though, say they did have a couple of squad cars to secure perimeters for the safety of everyone involved, to secure the perimeter for the safety of the community and the law enforcement officers executing the criminal warrants. They also have a deputy assigned to the FBI task force. Now, a lot to follow here today. We're going to go to Karen Sculling, who's out trying to put the pieces together here at the scope of this and where it goes from here. Karen.
Right. Well, I think you pretty much nailed it. It's about 22 federal search warrants that we're talking about. And it is not just Minneapolis. Of course, a lot of these daycare centers are located in Minneapolis, but it is Minneapolis and beyond. We've seen a list that includes Burnsville, Fridley, Savage. So we've got a lot of outlying areas from Minneapolis that are also included. Part of Hennepin County, of course. You mentioned the Quality Learning Center. There was also a Somali Senior Center, a daycare center. That was on a Park Avenue location. That was in Minneapolis. And then also there were 5 autism centers that the Attorney General's office, Keith Ellison's office, was involved in as well. And they just confirmed those 5 locations because they were linked to Medicaid. They can and are participating in those investigations to expose any kind of fraud that might be there. But also, and this was interesting, is that the state in general seems to be involved quite a bit with this one. The Department of Children, Youth, and Families today tweeting out that they work every day to protect program integrity. They're pleased to see the state's BCA and our federal partners taking strong action based on information we have shared with them. We will continue sharing information with law enforcement to ensure they are able to conduct thorough criminal investigations. So interesting in that the state and the federal government are working together very much on this partnership, and now we see the fruits of the labor being these search warrants. Still unclear, though, exactly what they're looking for when they do these search warrants. We did see, some of our video, they're carrying out computer. That kind of thing, which I think is what you would expect. Some of these locations seem like they've been closed for a while. Like I think the Quality Learning Center closed back in January. So It's unclear what they might find from them. But some of these were still operating when the search warrants were served.
Yeah, and I believe I was at the site of an FBI search or raid of an autism center. I believe it was last year sometime, too. And that's, again, the same thing that you see. A lot of computers, some files, but a lot of computers is they're looking to see if there are records that they have kept regarding attendance. And they compare that to the claims submitted to the state.
Right. I think that is where the fraud comes in case people need a reminder. It's that they claim they are providing these services, but yet the children aren't even there, or there's quite a lot less children at these daycares than they're saying. And that, of course, leads to funding. So that's really the heart of all of this.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that you mentioned, there's kind of 2 different things here as you talk about the state saying that we have provided information to the federal investigators, which is kind of how this works. You'll see kind of the other side. We've seen some statements saying the federal agencies needed to come in and do this to kind of clean up a mess made by state leaders. So it's a little bit of dueling narratives that go on there, with state leaders saying, no, we are fully in partnership with them and providing them information for this.
I think the narrative is that they weren't doing, the state wasn't doing it or doing enough for many, many years. Now they are participating. I think that's sort of the narrative that the feds have put out there. Whether or not that is true, I don't know, but that is what they've been saying. And so now in any case, it seems like they are in fact working together to expose any fraud that might be going on.
All right. Well, Karen, thanks for joining us with an update on that. It's kind of a lot to keep track of today. Things like this move very, very quickly, which is what we've discovered, is that these raids are often much quicker than you might expect. So.
Right.
All right.
Yep, they happen fast.
Thanks, Karen. All right. Well, a couple of statements in response to these raids this morning. Among them, a lengthy one from Governor Tim Walz, sharing this on social media, saying, if you commit fraud in Minnesota, you're going to get caught. And that's exactly what we saw today. We catch criminals when state and federal agencies share information. And again, this goes to, the point that state leaders are trying to make, that this is a cooperative investigation. Joint investigations work, he wrote, and securing justice depends on it. Today's raids by state and federal law enforcement happened because our state agencies caught irregular behavior and reported it. That's how the system is supposed to work, and our agencies will keep at it as long as there are fraudsters around to put behind bars. He continues by writing, now let's work on a joint investigation into the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, instead of cherry picking when we seek justice and when we turn a blind eye. Also today, a statement from the Majority Whip and Minnesota Representative Congressman Tom Emmer, who writes, President Trump and his administration have made it crystal clear. Our country will not tolerate waste, fraud, and abuse, and we're not going to allow people to take advantage of Americans' generosity. Thank you to the U.S. Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security for taking action against Somali fraudsters. Minnesotans and U.S. taxpayers across the nation are grateful.